disease.
Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained, and as requested, today we'll be exploring the Himiko virus featured in the recent Tomb Raider adaptation, the changes made to the film, and the backstory of the real Queen Himiko, who was believed to have ruled over a region of ancient Japan called Yamatai Koku. I don't know about you guys, but I love the Tomb Raider series, from the pixelated backgrounds of the early 90s games, the dual guns, to the troublesome puzzles and mazes you had to navigate through. And while the early games and the two fun film adaptations starring Angelina Jolie were made for younger male audiences, made obvious by the character designs of Lara Croft, the newer games were more accessible to female gamers, giving us a fresh origin story for Lady Croft, arguably one of the most prime examples of strong female characters in games. It's because of this that I was thrilled to hear an adaptation was being made of the recent reboot starring the talented Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft, Dominic West as her father Richard, Daniel Wu as her friend Lu Ren, and Walter Goggins as the film's antagonist Matthias Vogel. Now, does the film live up to the larger-than-life games? Let's find out by exploring the Himiko virus featured in the film and the many changes that were made to the story for the adaptation. The Himiko virus was an extremely potent and virulent mutagenic pathogen that was thought to have been responsible for eradicating much of the kingdom of Yamatai. Named after its asymptomatic carrier, Queen Himiko, the virus had an incubation period of a few seconds and would begin taking over its host upon contact, instantly decomposing biological material as it spread throughout the bloodstream. Within a matter of seconds, the virus would begin to transform, inducing a fatal cytokine storm within the body. HV would then make its way towards the brain, where it would corrupt neural structures and synapses, turning its hosts into violent infectious drones that sought to pass on the virus. In this way, the Himiko virus shared similarities to most fictional zombie-related viruses that destroyed the organic biological structure of everything they touched before transforming their hosts into zombies. In the film, a handful of Trinity mercenaries and Lara Croft find the lost tomb of Queen Himiko, who was believed to have had control over life and death. And while the game showed that she had mystical powers, the film went in a different direction, explaining that this control over life and death was simply a deadly virus of which she had been a carrier. Unlike traditional zombies, those infected with the Himiko virus did not crave flesh or brains, but appeared to simply want to attack anyone that was near them. And since the virus was transmitted through contact, the potential for it to spread quickly was the reason Queen Himiko had sealed herself in an airtight tomb to save her people. Unfortunately for us as a viewer, we didn't get to see the later stages of infection, as most people who'd succumbed to the virus were shortly killed after their transformations. But based on the few encounters we see, I think HV shares some of the characteristics of the Rage virus featured in 28 Days Later, and the Trixie virus featured in the Crazies, both of which I've covered on this channel and will leave links to below. Though it may seem like a stretch of the imagination to consider a virus surviving in mummified remains, the US National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease had stated that although there have been no recorded cases of this occurring to date, it is still plausible for a virus to survive in well-preserved conditions, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Here's the soon-to-be world-famous archaeologist, Lara Croft, in her native habitat. She's on the hunt for the lost kingdom of Yamatai, home to the fabulous Himiko, mythical Sun Queen, and ancestor of yours truly.
Himiko was essentially a shamanist queen that lived between 170 to 258 BCE and was thought to have controlled a region of ancient Japan known as Yamatai. While the location of her kingdom and even her existence is hotly debated amongst historical scholars, stories about her reign have been recorded in various ancient historical texts dating back to 3rd century China and 8th century Japan. In fact, the first recorded description of Queen Himiko and the lost kingdom of Yamatai was recorded in the ancient Chinese text, Records of the Three Kingdoms, which was published at the end of the 3rd century, 400 years before the Japanese began writing their own records and accounts of the lost queen.
The Sun Queens. The fire ritual where the queen chooses her successor. A chosen priestess enters the monastery, and she's given your power and becomes the new queen.
Kicking off with the release of Tomb Raider in 2013, the series introduced us to a young Lara Croft who goes in search of the fictional island of Yamatai, which was believed to have been located in the Dragon's Triangle off the coast of Japan. The young and ambitious archaeology graduate essentially has theories on the location of the lost kingdom of Yamatai, which have convinced the Nishimura family, descendants from the people of Yamatai themselves, to fund an expedition in search of the kingdom. Unfortunately for Lara and her team, upon their arrival towards the island of Yamatai, their ship is caught in a massive storm, causing it to sink, while the desperate crew frantically made it to shore. Things begin to go from bad to worse as it's soon revealed that there was a cult that inhabited the island, led by a man named Matthias who believed in Queen Himiko, the ancient ruler of the island whose supernatural powers are explained as being responsible for the destruction of every ship, helicopter and plane that dared make its way towards it. With the capture of Lara's crew and the imminent sacrifice of her friend Sam, the young descendant of the Yamatai people, in a ritual that was thought to transfer Himiko's spirit and life essence into a new vessel, it's all up to Lara Croft to save her friends and bring about an end to the mysterious cult, giving rise to the birth of the Tomb Raider. While the recent adaptation starring Alicia Vikander did revolve around the plot of the 2013 reboot, there were many changes made that removed the supernatural elements that made the game larger than life in favour of a more grounded tone to the film. This would have been okay were it not for the numerous plot holes and unanswered questions left in its wake, and the unsatisfying ending that felt as though it was trying to force a prelude to a sequel in its final minutes. In the games, Himiko's power over the island enabled her to control the weather surrounding it, which is why no ship had ever made it to Yamatai without being destroyed. But when it came to the film, there was nothing supernatural involved, and the reason ships never made it to the island was because Yamatai was surrounded by rocks that breached the hulls of all ships that wandered too close. In fact, we later see a helicopter land on the island with ease, which is how the film's antagonists were able to stock up on supplies and men, which begs the question, why didn't Lara just hire a helicopter to fly there in the first place?
Ah, she's awake. I was beginning to get worried about you. A reef. Right here.
The game's antagonist, Matthias Vogel, is featured in the film, though his status as a cult leader is replaced with that of a mercenary captain. In the game, it's Matthias who kidnaps Sam, and as a believer of the Sun Queen, his aim was to sacrifice Sam and enable Himiko's return. But in the film, he's reduced to some guy who was hired to complete a job by Trinity, a fanatical militant organization that sought to control the world and the fate of humankind through the use of ancient artifacts. There was also no crew other than the single captain Lara hires to take her to the island, and no descendant of Queen Himiko, which was a bit disappointing as it essentially discarded all the character development Lara gains in her journey to save her friends.
Sam, is it serious?
Oh, sweetie, I know. I'm just trying to lighten the mood here. Everyone's so on edge. What are you so worried about?
I'm close to something. I'm sure of it.
I trust you. Roth trusts you. You got this. Now let's take a break, okay?
Okay. And Sam, thanks.
Richard Croft is also revealed to be alive, even though the film's antagonist declares that he had killed him and watched him die, which created more questions than it answered. In an effort to make the film more grounded in reality, they essentially removed everything that made the game exciting. Yes, it's fun to see Lara take out the cult and members of Trinity in the games, but it's the supernatural elements like Himiko's control over the island, her Stormguard generals, and Himiko herself that made the game so memorable. And reducing the Sun Queen to an asymptomatic carrier of an ancient virus merely scratches the surface of what made the game so great. Much of the game's success rests on the exploration of the kingdom of Yamatai and the beautiful remnants of its ancient civilization, something the film disregards by only showing us the tomb that housed Queen Himiko. There is no mention or sight of the ancient architecture scattered throughout the games, making the film feel less like Tomb Raider and more like a simple action picture with mercenaries set on an island. In saying that, there were some fantastic action pieces that encapsulated elements of the game. I also appreciated the work Alicia Vikander put into getting ready for the role, and she reportedly did most of her own stunts, which really shows in the final product where it doesn't feel like we're cutting from Alicia to a stunt double. I was also impressed with her interpretation of Lara Croft and her development from a curious young woman in search of her father to a strong, courageous Tomb Raider. But in the end, the script was lacking, straying too far from the source material, and as a result, I didn't think the film did the game's justice.
What's happening here?
I thought it removed a lot of the fun, relationships, and character development seen in the games, and without the supernatural elements and breathtaking locations, the film loses much of the magic that made the rebooted series of games such a pleasure to explore. With that being said, I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about the Himiko virus featured in the film, and the numerous changes that were made to ground the film in reality, so please share these in the comments below. Well, that's all for today, folks. Big thanks to all of you guys who requested we explore the recent film adaptation of Tomb Raider. Don't forget to hit subscribe and click the notification icon to stay up to date on all my content. And if there's anything else you'd like to request, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.
Mayday, this is Lara Croft of the Endurance.
This is aircraft Nautilus 177 Alpha. Searching for you since the distress call from your vessel. Almost given up hope.
So had we.
We've got your approximate position, but we could sure use a visual.